It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the box. Well, the time has come. LSU, Little Rock, they get set to open up the Baton Rouge Regional. Scheduled first pitch, 2 p.m. Central Time on Friday. You might be dodging a little bit of rain shower, scattered thunderstorms and whatnot projected in the area of Baton Rouge. So keep an eye on start time and whatnot. You know, with LSU sending out some of their best pitchers, namely most likely Kade Anderson or Anthony Ianson. We'll get to that. They're going to wait until they have an absolute clear window to start that ball game. So just keep an eye on that. But that's off to the side. What's of the main importance today is a preview of that ball game. Let's finally have our deep dive on the 4-seed Little Rock. We'll also talk about how LSU matches up and some things to watch for LSU, not just in the game against the Trojans, but in the entirety of the Baton Rouge Regional. If LSU is to advance, as many expect them to do, they are the overwhelming favorite to do so. What are a few things to keep an eye on for the team? We'll get through all of that. Obviously, game prediction, regional prediction, and things of that nature. So please smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed if you have not already to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the box. Please share. Of course, you can follow me on social media as well. Twitter X at Musso Matthew. You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Okay. The Little Rock Trojans, the 4-seed in the Baton Rouge Regional. They come in winners of the Ohio Valley Conference Tournament. 5-game winning streak overall in the year. They are 24-32, one of 2 teams in the NCAA tournament with a losing record. The other one, North Dakota State, who incidentally LSU played this season. Trojans went 8-16 in conference. They were the 8th seed in their tournament. That does not tell the entire story of the season. This is a team that in 2024 won their conference regular season, lost the conference tournament, missed the postseason. They were picked second in the Ohio Valley Conference this season. Obviously, we'll get into the injury issues and whatnot. They finish 8th, sneak into the tournament, get hot, win it, and now we're in their second NCAA tournament in school history. The injury piece is interesting because I'm not going to cast that aside and say it had nothing to do with the struggles of this team. At one point, I believe it was 6 everyday players out of the lineup they were without. That matters. They're still without their closer, who was an electric arm at the back end of that bullpen, and that's definitely shuffled things around. That's the one guy they really had that could come in and close down a game, and he's out for the year. But at the same time, this team has just been woefully inconsistent all year, even when they've gotten healthy players back. You know, the injuries start to take their toll, and then they go to close out a series, a little midweek series against Lindenwood. They win that one 13-6. That was back on April the 7th. That sparks an 8-game winning streak, which is the longest winning streak of the season for them and in the program's history. And you're thinking, all right, you've gotten some guys back, and you finally turning it around. After that 8-game winning streak, once you get to April 19th, the final game of the series against Western Illinois, that's where it sparks the next long losing streak, where Little Rock would lose 13 out of 14 games to close the season. So when I look at that, I go, yeah, you've had injuries. That's tough. But you've just been woefully inconsistent. And it's probably pretty fair to say that 24-32 is earned. Like, when you get through 56 games like that, you are what your record says you are. Yes, they've won 5 games in a row. And you could say, man, they're hot coming in. They were really hot going. They were the hottest they've ever been going into the stretch where they lost 13 out of 14. I look at Little Rock, I see a very inconsistent baseball team. Do they have some guys who are intriguing? Yes. But ultimately, they're 24-32. Baseball America went through and ranked each team in the NCAA tournament. If you're guessing that Little Rock came in at number 64 out of 64, you would be correct. Baseball America ranked Little Rock as the worst team in the NCAA tournament. That's what LSU's facing come Friday afternoon or whenever they get that game played. Now, that's a lot of crapping on Little Rock. Let's talk a little bit about what they do have and what could cause LSU some problems. If you look at them just overall, you'll see a team that's hitting 271 with 46 home runs. They don't steal a bunch of bases, 55 out of 81. It's just not a great offense on paper. When you look on the mound, a 6.33 ERA. The opponent is hitting 282 off of the entire staff. And in terms of fielding, 969 is just not good. But who are the standouts? On offense, it's two guys in particular. There are three players on Little Rock's team, three regulars, I should say, hitting over 300. The top two are the ones that you really, really need to watch. Cooper Champlain is the leading hitter on this team at 321. He's got probably, Cooper Champlain has the best bat-to-ball skills on this Little Rock team. The 321 average shows that, but in 209 at-bats, he has struck out just 37 times. The only ratio that would be better than that is Alex Seguin, 204 at-bats, 26 strikeouts. But that guy's also hitting 255. So when you combine bat to ball with the hit for average and the strikeout, Cooper Champlain is that guy. He's third on the team in RBI. He's second on the team in home runs. They don't hit many of them. He's got 7, and that's second on the club. He's also their leading base stealer, 12 out of 17. So he's really a guy that you're going to have to watch. The other one is Kade Martin. And Kade Martin is a really cool story. So we mentioned the injuries. One guy they're still without is their starting catcher, Trey Hill. Trey Hill went down with injury back in late February, the 26th to be exact. It's the last game that he played. Kade Martin ends up taking over that role really full time March 2nd against Murray State. And why this is noteworthy is Kade Martin is a former walk-on who, when he went to Little Rock in the fall, didn't even know if he'd make the team. In fact, there were plans for him to transfer to a junior college. And instead, after an injury, your former walk-on is thrust into the role of starting catcher, and he's your second leading hitter on the team now at 309. 5 jacks, 31 RBI. But he is also probably the hottest hitter on this team right now. Kade Martin's a really awesome story for Little Rock. He enters this regional with a 7-game hitting streak, the longest on the team, and his last 4 games in that hitting streak have all been multi-hit games. So Kade Martin is someone you will absolutely need to circle. For what it's worth, back to Cooper Champlain for a hot minute if we could. He enters with a 6-game hitting streak. So those are the two guys. You can look at Ryan Geck. He's the other 300 hitter. He's the team leader in RBI. And then Ty Rhodes leads the team in home runs. But I will really circle Champlain, and Kade Martin. And again, Kade Martin, pretty awesome story. After that, there's just not a lot to write home with in this Little Rock offense. In fact, Little Rock's 271 batting average ranks 60th out of 64 in the entire tournament. The only category that Little Rock ranks inside the top 40 in is their strikeouts. Then it's 36. Everything else is 40 or above, and most of them are in the 60s. There's just not a lot to write home about when you look at this Little Rock team offensively. Now, on the mound can be interesting because their ace, Jackson Wells, fifth-year guy, righty, not the most imposing figure on the mound, 5'11", 200 pounds, but he is very experienced, and he has shown flashes throughout his career. In 2023, Jackson Wells led the entire country in earned run average. When you look at it this year, he's 3-6 in 15 starts with an ERA of 5.24. So you could wonder, okay, is that a little bit of fool's gold a couple years ago? Or what? This is a guy that's been healthy for them all year, has been their Friday guy, and LSU will see him on Friday in the regional. That has been confirmed by the head coach already. So 3-6 in 15 starts, a 5.24 ERA, 79 innings pitched. He has walked 32, which isn't a great number, but it's not a horrible number. Struck out 90, so he does have a little bit of a strikeout deal working for him. The opponent hits 275. More hits than innings pitched is never great. It's never what you want to see if you're an ace. But that is their guy, and he really set the tone for them in their conference tournament. He opened up that deal for them with a complete game effort, 1 run, and punched out 8. And Little Rock got off to a great start in that tournament, and obviously that set the tone for them to go on and win it. So he is capable of keeping LSU off balance, mixing it up. And again, with those strikeout numbers, you'll probably see a little bit harder thrower than you will for the rest of the staff. The other deal for them, though, in the bullpen where things do get a little hairy, as we said, they are missing their closer. And that is Preston Davis. Preston Davis has not pitched since early to mid-March. And that's a guy who could get up to 97 miles per hour on this team and had multiple pitches. The one guy that could really, really close down the game for them. And he's out for the year, so you don't have to worry about that. But what that has done is it has created kind of a closer by committee role since then. Since Davis went down in early to mid-March, you've seen 6 different players record a save for this Little Rock team. When you look at the guys who are going to be called on most, Hunter Royal leads the team in appearances and is tied for the lead with 2 saves. He's a lefty out of their pen. That's someone to obviously keep an eye on. But like many, it's more hits than innings pitched. Blake Van Cleve, 22 appearances, also 2 saves. Those are the guys they've gone to most frequently at the back end and just in the bullpen in general. Again, more hits than innings pitched. Then you get into a couple guys with 20 appearances. Gage Haley, who's a righty, pretty good size righty, 6'6", is Haley. 20 appearances on the year. The opponent is hitting 330 off of Gage Haley. And then Josh Beasley, 20 appearances. The opponent is hitting 363 off of Beasley, and he has an ERA of 10.5. But that's what they've got. Like, those are the guys they have to go to. One more really interesting story on this team. And that's relief pitcher Brendan Katz. I don't know if you'll see him in this regional. I hope they do get him an opportunity at some point. He's only made 10 appearances on the year, but this is sort of a homecoming for him. So his parents are both Tulane graduates. His sister, I should say, two of his siblings went to Tulane as well. His sister got her medical degree from LSU, and he spends summers in Slidell. So this is an interesting, he's a lot of family here in Southeast Louisiana. That's just a fun story with him coming back. So hopefully they get him some action at some point in this regional. I don't know if it will be against the hometown Tigers. That'd be awesome. I know he's talked throughout the week about having a lot of family coming in, and it's going to be the first time that most of them got to see him play in person since high school. So that would just be a really cool moment to get him into one of these games at some point in their stay in Baton Rouge. We'll kind of keep an eye on that, but I just wanted to note that. Not a guy that they count on an awful lot. Again, just 20 appearances. We went through the dudes that they count on a bunch. So I don't mean to talk down to the opponent. There's just not a lot there. You're 24-32. So that's Little Rock. I like LSU in just about every phase of that game. And the thing that I will point to, and you might be wondering, okay, well, they got a good ace on the mound, and, LSU's bats are coming off their first shutout in more than 2 years. Should you be nervous? I'm going to say no. And here's my reasoning. LSU was awesome in non-conference games this year, especially given the schedule that LSU played in the non-conference, because it wasn't very good. LSU's non-conference strength of schedule was 221. They went 22-3, and a lot of those games weren't close. Remember what they did to Purdue Fort Wayne. North Dakota State, the other 4 seed in this tournament with a losing record. You swept through that. You struggled the first game because you played arguably your worst game of the season in the field, but you still managed to come back and win it and slug, and you beat them 13-3 the next night. The example that I will give, the 2 examples that I will really, really give, though, for why I love LSU in this game, and really, even if you have to go up against the Rhode Island or anything like that. And yes, you could look at those 2 and say, well, what about the 2? And look, you didn't play very well against Omaha, and you lost that game 5-4. You were leading Northwestern State. There was the rain delay, and LSU came out, looked like they wanted to be anywhere else, kicked the ball around, and played their worst game of the year and got run-ruled by the Demons. Outside of that, they dominated. They absolutely dominated. When you look at teams comparable in the RPI that LSU played to Little Rock, and Little Rock's 243rd in the RPI, you see Sam Houston State, who's 246th. LSU knocked them off 12-8. They walked a lot of guys in that series. Purdue Fort Wayne, 293. Remember how that series went? LSU allowed 2 runs over 3 games. Right? North Alabama, 200. You swept that series and scored double digits twice. And then there's teams in the midweek that you face that were actually pretty good RPI. Xavier, top 40 RPI. They finished the season with the top 40 RPI. LSU beat them 18-4. Run rule. McNeese State. That was a team with the top 100 RPI. And when you played them in April, they were pushing top 50. And you beat them 10-3. And then the best example to look at is Southeastern. Southeastern was the first team out in the NCAA tournament. First team out. Team 65. finished just on the cusp of a top 50 RPI this season. LSU beat them 15-2. The first team out of this tournament, 15-2. That would have been a 4 seed somewhere as the first team out. And you did that coming off the massive series win against Tennessee, where that could have been a sandwich spot. LSU has been really good at keeping focus on these, call them midweek teams and non-conference teams. And I expect them to do the same thing. LSU has bounced back incredibly well this season. So yeah, no, the game against Ole Miss, I know it doesn't bother me. This is not Ole Miss you're playing. LSU's longest losing streak of the season is 3 games. It was the sweep at Auburn. And then what'd you do in the midweek after that? That's when you skunked McNeese 10-3. Your longest winning streak is 17. This team has been consistent, and they've been really good at bouncing back. So that part doesn't bother me. Would it surprise me if Little Rock keeps this thing close early? No, it wouldn't surprise me. It might take LSU a couple innings to figure out Jackson Wells, but second trip through the lineup, I expect LSU to be on him and ready to go. As far as who's going to pitch for LSU, I'm going Kade Anderson for a couple of reasons. And for what it's worth, it will be Anderson or Ianson. It just will be. But I'm going Anderson. And as I said, for a couple reasons, here they are. Jay Johnson, in 3 years at LSU and 3 NCAA tournaments, has thrown his number 1 in game 1 all 3 times. Mikhail Hilliard in 22, Paul Skeens in 23, Gage Jump a year ago in 24. And 24 was a situation very similar to this, where you had 2 aces in a sense with Jump Holman, and you have Anderson Ianson this season. And he still went Jump. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is there is no reason at this point to flip Ianson and Anderson unless you plan on having it that way the rest of the season. And at this point, there's just no reason to do that. Kade Anderson has been awesome for you. MLB Pipeline released their newest draft rankings earlier today. And Kade Anderson is the top-ranked college pitcher per MLB Pipeline. That's MLB.com, by the way. Their draft analysts rank him the top college pitcher. There's no reason to move him from his spot. If you're dead set on pitching and not pitching off, it's Kade Anderson. Because if you were to flip-flop them, the only way that would be the way is if LSU's getting a Saturday, Sunday, Monday Super Regional. But if you're Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you jack up the rest again. Because then if you want to go back to Anderson, he'd be on short rest. And then you'd have Ianson on long rest. You'd basically flip-flop what you would do this weekend. So for me, from a rest standpoint, all of that, Kade Anderson, it makes the most sense for it to be him. And you've played so well behind him all year long. Kade Anderson carries an 8-1 record into this regional. You have lost just 2 games all year that he has started. That's it. LSU is 13-2 when Kade Anderson takes them out. You want him to get you off to a good start, he's the guy to do that. And then you have Anthony Ianson ready to go for a marble game. The third and final reason I look at Anderson is he's one of the few guys that have pitched in the NCAA tournament on this team. The next time Anthony Ianson pitches in the NCAA tournament, that'll be the first time. Kade Anderson Zach Cowan, Jacob Myers, DJ Primo. Of the guys you're going to count on here, those four are the only ones with NCAA tournament experience on the mound. That's it. Casey Evans, freshman, obviously not. Cooper Williams, freshman, obviously not. William Schmidt, freshman, obviously not. Maverick Rizzi, freshman, obviously not. Connor Ware, JUCO guy, obviously not. Jaden Newt, been with the team a while, but this is really his first full season pitching, so obviously not. Chase Shores was on that 2023 team, but he got hurt in March. He did not pitch in the NCAA tournament. You have another one in Gavin Guidry, but he's out for the year. So you're looking at four guys. Kade Anderson's one of them. Send him out there. He'll handle the moment fine. Let him get off to a good start. Now, I know what the obvious counterpoint to that is going to be. Okay, well, are you nervous, and how does that impact the rest of the series, the rest of the region, I should say, where you have to go to some of those guys? Is the moment going to be too big? And I don't think it will be, because these guys have pitched in massive moments this season in front of packed crowds at the box, raucous environments, whether that be the Tennessee series, the Arkansas series, Bama. You had some great crowds there, and they faced a lot of adversity early and came through it. Casey Evans' first taste of SEC play was that actual barn burner you had against Missouri, where he gave you the first really extended relief that you saw of him. He got you, I think, the final 7 or 8 outs of that game and loaded the bases a couple times. He did the same thing against Mississippi State. Like, those are high leverage spots in conference play for a freshman like that. Yeah, I think he'll be fine. Cooper Williams coming in on the road to face Jaslav Yolette with runners on base and getting the out in a tight ball game on the road. That's massive. So no, I don't think it'll be too big for them. I just think when you have a guy with experience in the postseason already, you go to him to get yourself off to a good start in the event that you're not going to pitch off, which LSU isn't. So those are my 3 reasons that I think it's Kade Anderson over Anthony Ianson. And talking NCAA tournament experience with this team, and then I'll get to the keys to the victory of the regional, and we'll wrap. LSU's in a very interesting spot, because the one thing I've loved about this team all the way back until the fall, since the fall, I should say, is the mix of experience and youth that they have. It was very similar to 2023. Very, very similar to that squad, where you had veterans like Cruz and Morgan, right? And Riley Cooper. Ty Floyd had seen a lot of baseball. Paul Skeens was a third-year guy. And then you had, Griffin Herring and Chase Shores. You had Tommy White, who was a sophomore. You had that great mix. Gavin Dugas, what a veteran, right? LSU has that on this team as well. And there's 2 things I love. When you look at the NCAA tournament experience in this lineup, it is plentiful. Whether that be Milam, Braswell, Brown, Jones, Pearson, Stanfield. We talked about the guys on the mound already. But the thing I love, while there aren't many guys left from the 2023 team, there are a few, and they are contributors, like a Jared Jones, like Gavin Guidry. And even though he's hurt, he's there and can help lead, like Josh Pearson, who played and contributed in all of those things. They were on that team. They know what it takes. They know the preparation, how to get back to that point. And a lot of them have a sour taste in their mouth from a year ago. So I love the mix of old and new and youth on this team, like a Derek Couriel, like Casey Evans, guys like that can be shown the way. Now, we've referenced the rankings that College Baseball Nation put together in the tournament a lot. For the tournament a lot. LSU, we've talked plenty about them having a favorable draw. And they do. And they need to go out there and play their game. And for me, it just comes down to really, really good fundamental baseball. Throw strikes. When you look at where LSU ranks lowest in the tournament, it is their bullpen's walk percentage. 56th out of 64 teams. Throw strikes out of the pen. Do not give these teams chances. A team like Little Rock, the only way that team can compete with you, especially with Kade Anderson on the mound, is if you give them gifts. That's the only way. You can't let them hang around and believe because they're playing with house money. They've got nothing to lose and they're on a 5-game winning streak. Throw strikes. When the ball hits you, field it, throw to the correct base, make a good throw, get the out. Base running. That's going to be very key. Don't run yourself out of innings. That's how you let a bad team hang around. See South Carolina, for example. The fundamentals for LSU will be massively key this weekend because they are better than each team in this regional. They are more talented than each team in this regional, and they are just flat out better than each team in this regional. And the way they beat you is if you let them. Now, as we said, LSU's been really consistent this season, and I like the way that they've bounced back this season. Fundamental baseball is huge. The other thing I would say is you want to see the strikeout number low, but you want the zone to not be expanded. Command is an issue for a lot of these teams. Don't help them out. Don't expand. And then in terms of players to watch, man, I'm fired up to see Danny Dickinson. He was arguably your hottest hitter entering the postseason. Let's see if he still got it. Jared Jones needs to be key. Stephen Milam, this would be a fantastic time for him to break out. This is where he really made a name for himself a season ago. And I'm fired up also to watch young guys like Kade and Beatty get their first taste of NCAA tournament action because he'll catch this weekend. Probably the marble game. There's a lot to like about LSU this weekend. And I know this is just so overly positive. But I like LSU to win the Baton Rouge Regional. I like them to sweep through it. I think it takes 3 games. I think they keep it right on track. Because I've seen them beat DBU. I think the Patriots have a real weakness in their bullpen. They've got a couple guys that could slide into that role that improve it. Maybe that haven't been in that role all year. But that is their weak point. I'm confident LSU could outslug Rhode Island, and LSU is just top to bottom the better team than Little Rock, and they really have no excuse in that ballgame. So, I like LSU to sweep through the Baton Rouge Regional. I think you see improvement from the Bats. I really do because they're playing at home, and that's where they've been their best, and that's why getting that top 8 seed was so crucial for LSU this season. So they could play 2 rounds at home. You win this, you accomplish that. And I think that's clearly your best path to Omaha. 9 runs per game at home this season for LSU in 35 games. Pretty large sample. So, off we go. LSU and Little Rock, the Baton Rouge Regional. It begins 2 p.m. Central on Friday. Scheduled first pitch. We'll see. But you know we have you covered wall to wall here on Musso at the Box throughout the Baton Rouge Regional. So please get subscribed. Smash the like button if you have not already. Subscribe on the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app, and be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.